Hey everyone, what's up and welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Liz, your host here at Untold. Today, I actually have an update for you of a case that I covered previously, like back when I was still a larger human. We're going to be talking about the identification of the Snake River John Doe, also known as the Nez Perce John Doe of 1982. So, like I've already mentioned, I covered this case a few years ago, and I actually had to rewatch my video, and I was kind of cringing. Not because of the context of the video, just, me, seeing me. It's a little weird watching yourself online. Yeah. Anywho, that's besides the point. So, the best thing about this case is that he's finally been identified. He was identified 42 years after he was found. So, let's talk about the case a little bit, shall we? So, the Snake River John Doe, also known as the Nez Perce John Doe of 1982, his remains were found in the Snake River. That the area he was found was near the mouth of the Grand Ronde River. The actual date of discovery also differs between media sources, but it's been determined the actual date and all that jazz. I'll talk about that in a second. So, different source material shows he was found in June or July of 1982, but it was June. So, the date that they have is June 16th of 1982. That is correct. And I will go into the actual timeline of events as well, or like leading up to. After discovery, he was determined, or they were determined to be a Caucasian male between the ages of 18 and 22. That also is a little differed based on who this person actually is. It's believed that he was approximately 145 to 160 pounds and about 5'11 in height. This male also had longer hair, like 3 to 4 inches, so it was a little bit shaggier, and it was a darkish brown black color. It also is believed that he believed that he worked in manual labor due to calluses on your hands. If you ever work in like manufacturing or any manual labor type job, you'll develop calluses on your hands. I have them. They're smaller now because I don't work in manufacturing anymore, but even if like you were younger and you went on the monkey bars, you're gonna get calluses on your hands. And they're there for life. There's no getting rid of them. He also had a distinct scar on his right ankle that was about 2 inches large, or like 2 inches in size. You know what I mean? Like he had pretty distinct like identifiers. Also his clothing as well. There's a little bit of a thing with his clothing as well. So he had Britannia jeans on, white socks, and blue brief style underwear. But he also had some swim trunks on, and this was not released to the public for quite some time. I don't know why, other than I'm assuming they withheld it due to probably the nature of them, but they're blue California Sun swim trunks that have red and white stripes down the sides of them. I don't know if there's like a significance about it when it comes to this actual person, but they were on the remains themselves and they were not talked about for quite a long time. So at the scene, it was determined that he died possibly from 2 gunshot wounds. These gunshot wounds were made by a 38 caliber Smith & Wesson handgun, and this model wasn't built after 1967, which is a very, very particular. So whoever had this gun had it for a long time, and it's something that I actually talked about in my previous video, which will be linked in a card somewhere above or in my description box of this video as well. These gunshot wounds were located in the neck and left shoulder. But unfortunately, this case would just go cold. And I'll kind of talk about something with his identification when they found these remains as well a little bit later. Due to this case just going cold, eventually after time, they would reopen it. In 2008, this case was entered into NamUs, which is the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System, or NAMUS, as UP3041. And this man became known as the Snake River John Doe, also known as the Nez Perce John Doe of 1982. There would be a forensic sketch made of this man. It was developed and released to the public, and they hoped that they would get some leads with this sketch, but all efforts led to nothing. There was no leads, nothing happened. That was in 2008. In 2012, again, the case would be reopened, but any potential leads, again, were lacking and it went cold again. His case then would be reopened in 2023 when the Nez Perce County Coroner's Office and the Sheriff's Office would team together and submit the forensics found with this case to Othram. We've talked about Othram quite a bit here on my channel, and Othram is amazing for the things that they do. They use genetic genealogy in efforts to identify these unidentified John and Jane Does, and they have solved quite a bit. If you follow along on DNA Solves or even on unidentified wiki fandom, there's a ton of unidentifieds that have been identified over the past like 4 years from DNA Solves, from Othram. It's not from DNA Solves, but it's all funded by AudioChuck and Othram. AudioChuck is who runs a lot of podcasts. So a lot of these podcasts, they donate their money or they give their money to AudioChuck, who then funds Othram in order to do this. So I really am happy that they're able to do this for the public, for all these families who have lost their loved ones and never knew what happened to them. So Othram then took his genetics and they were able to find a potential relative that would lead to the identification of 17-year-old Dwayne Searles, who went unidentified for 42 years. We also would find out what would happen to Dwayne and his friend Michael Coffin. So the men together left Moscow, Idaho, which everybody and their mother probably knows exactly where Moscow, Idaho is at this point, post the Moscow, Idaho shooting. Yes. They left in order to head to Boise, and this was on June 14th of 1982. They were headed to Idaho State University. Again, everybody kind of probably knows exactly where this is, which is where Dwayne was actually going to be going in the fall. He was going to be attending Idaho State University. But as events would play out, they would end up in a crash into the Salmon River, which is up the way from obviously where they would find the remains. But Dwayne wasn't in the car when the accident was eventually investigated. Michael Coffin, on the other hand, was found and injured, but he would die due to his injuries. Dwayne was eventually found downriver, which is where they would find the Snake River John Doe. At first, when they found the remains, it was thought that it was Dwayne Searles, but physically, it didn't seem like him. So the remains were then left as a John Doe. This is something that is sometimes looked over and not thought of at the time, that, when somebody dies, rigor mortis, or just anything in general, your body does tend to change a little bit, just a little bit. You have to think of what's happening to your body when you die. Obviously, what's the weather like? He's in the water, he's in a car crash. How did he get the gunshots? We don't know who shot him. Things like that. There's some things that still remain unknown, but we do know that this is exactly who it is. That this is Dwayne Searles. He was born back in 1965, and he had gone unidentified for 42 years. So that, my friends, is the update of the Snake River John Doe, aka the Nez Perce John Doe, also known as Dwayne Searles, who finally has his name back.